Hello everyone. Welcome to the world of Apple Mandarin speech test. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to guide you through an immersive journey of designing this test and using this test to assess a Mandarin speaking child in clinic. The Apple Mandarin speech test is designed to help SLPs in differential diagnosis of different types of speech disorders in Mandarin speaking children. And why is there an apple in its name? You're going to figure it out in the following presentation. As speech language professionals, we know that the standardized tests are of great importance in diagnosing speech disorders. However, most of the standardized speech assessments were designed for English speakers. In English-dominant countries like America, Canada, UK, and Australia, SLPs and teachers often work with many bilingual or multilingual children whose primary language is not English. In schools, SLPs are taught that when assessing bilingual children, clinicians should assess both or all of their languages. Assessing only one language can lead to biased results. However, in real-life practice, clinicians have realized that this is not always that easy and straightforward. According to survey and research, many SLPs are concerned about their ability to assess an unfamiliar language. Additionally, there is a lack of appropriate standardized tests in some languages. Most tests intended for non-English speakers were primarily developed for monolingual speakers, with very few tests having the norms for bilingual or multilingual speakers. Without assessment in both languages, it can be challenging for professionals to differentiate between the age-inappropriate speech errors and those resulting from the interaction of their languages. This places bilingual children at a higher risk of being over or underdiagnosed of speech disorders. Mandarin is one of the most widely spoken language globally, with over 1.3 billion people speaking the language. Despite its prevalence, assessing Mandarin speech still remains a challenge. Although there are some existing Mandarin speech tests, they also have limitations. Very few of them undergo thorough evaluations for reliability and validity, and most of them focus only on consonants, not vowels and tones. And to our knowledge, none of these tests claim to be useful for differential diagnosis of various types of speech disorders. However, differential diagnosis is crucial as it provides essential information that help SLP select the most appropriate intervention strategies for future treatments. With the goal of providing a reliable speech assessment tools and advancing research in this domain, we have created the Mandarin speech test. We also call it an apple test because there is a story and a game incorporated in this test that is about apples. We plan to include both monolingual children and bilingual children in the validation group to make sure the test efficacy across diverse language backgrounds. Also, we want to ensure that the test can be used by SLPs who cannot speak Mandarin or has varying levels of Mandarin proficiencies so that the child can get proper assessment even they do not have access to a Mandarin-speaking SLP. So, how should a test be designed for this purpose? According to FreeTech 2000, designing a sampling tool involves two key steps, conceptualization and operationalization. Building upon this framework, we envision that the development and validation of this test will progress through four phases: test design, field testing, test revision, validation, and standardization. Now, let's start from the first step, test conceptualization. Conceptualization begins with understanding the goal of the test. The goal of this Mandarin speech test is to first, collect speech data and assess speech developments of Mandarin-speaking children. Second, help SLPs who cannot speak Mandarin to conduct Mandarin speech assessment. And most importantly, third, differentially diagnose children with speech disorders and further categorize them into different subgroups to facilitate intervention planning. We use the differential diagnosis system developed by Dr. Barbara Dodd. This system categorized SSDs into 5 types: phonological delay, consistent phonological disorder, inconsistent phonological disorder, articulation disorder, and suspected childhood apraxia of speech. We decided to include 6 different tasks in this test, including single-word picture naming tasks, syllable repetition tasks, oral mechanism screening, story retelling test, and consistency test. This 6 test targets children's speech productions of single word and connected speech, their oral motor function, the consistency of their single word productions, their coordination of phonological encoding, and motor planning. The design and structure of the tests are inspired by DEEP, the test that was designed based on Dodd's model for differential diagnosis, as well as computer articulation instrument, which was designed based on psycholinguistic model. Next, I'm going to provide a bit more details about each task. First task is a single word picture naming task. It aims to evaluate children's sounds inventories and their accuracy in producing different sounds. Right now, several SLPs and I are working together to evaluate the test in order to decide which words to keep and which to remove. In this test, the examiner shows a picture to the child and asks them to name the picture. The examiner will provide prompts following a specific cueing hierarchy. Since one of the goals in designing this test is to ensure that it can be assessed and used by SLPs who do not have any prior knowledge of Mandarin, therefore, I will provide pre-recorded cueings and prompts for SLPs who are not familiar with Mandarin and who do not have access to interpreter. The second task is the oral mechanism screening. It includes 3 parts and aims to evaluate children's oral motor functions and oral motor structure. The first task targets children's dialectal cokinesis rate, which is also called as a DDK task. The syllable sequence includes both the noun words pataka and also real words in Mandarin, such as grape, 葡萄, and big apple, 大苹果, which include different places of articulation. The second part of the oral max screening involves the test of single and sequential movements. I've also added a checklist for therapists to take notes of their observation on any other aspects of speech system that may influence children's speech production. The third task is the noun-word repetition task. It consists of 12 noun words composed of phonemes p, t, m, n, and vowels a, u, and i. These sounds are shared between English and Mandarin and are typically acquired by 90% of children aged 2. They are also less likely to be influenced by speech sound disorders. The design of this task is inspired by the syllable repetition task designed by Dr. Schreiberg and his colleagues in 2009, which is intended to be a task that is friendly to bilingual children and children with SSDs. The instruction of noun words will be recorded to ensure consistency in task administration. To make this task more engaging, each noun word is assigned as the name of an imaginary character. These characters will be introduced to children as new friends who will join them for the upcoming story retelling task. In the story retelling task, the target words are 25 words that are also in single word picture naming task. Most of the target words are in the subject or object position. In this task, the SLP tells the story first, and then the child retells the story or repeat the stories. This task evaluates children's consistency in producing the same word in both single words and connected speech. The final part of this task is the consistency test. In this section, the SLP returns to the first task, the picture naming task, and asks children to name the first 21 pictures again. By comparing their production in this task and their production in a single word picture naming task, we're able to know children's consistency in producing the same word twice. High level of inconsistency rate is a red flag for inconsistent phonological disorder and childhood apraxia of speech. Performance on this task will allow the clinicians to determine not only whether a child has typical speech development or speech sound disorders, but will also help them to identify specific subtypes of SSDs, which in turn will lead to different intervention strategies. Till now, you've got the gist of all the tasks in this Apple Mandarin speech test. So next, I'm going to introduce some other details that you may be interested in the task conceptualization. First, let's talk about word list. The word list in the Apple Mandarin speech test includes all consonants, glides, vowels, and tones in standard Mandarin. For each phoneme and phonetic context, a minimum of 2 words have been selected. It includes all the syllable shapes in Mandarin, and there are 21 different word shapes. While the majority of Mandarin words are monosyllabic or disyllabic, recent research suggests that children may have different performances when speaking longer words versus shorter ones, so I've tried to include some 3-syllable words or phrases in the test. In designing the test, I've chosen the words from 5 corpora. Words are selected based on the proportion of kids that can produce the word spontaneously, the age appropriateness, cultural relevance, and also how easy they can be represented in the picture. So that's all about the word list, and next let's take a look at the task kits and see what's in it. The task kits includes the recorded prompts, a support package for Mandarin transcription, a scoring form, manual, picture stimuli, and the language background questionnaire. Next, let's head into the clinic to see how to use this tool to assess a Mandarin-English bilingual child. A child has arrived with his parents. He has been living in this English-dominant country for a few months. You know that his family primarily speak Mandarin at home, and he was referred to this clinic for potential speech concerns. As a clinician, it's your job to determine what's going on. Before beginning the assessment, you ask the parents to complete a language background questionnaire. This questionnaire helps SLP decide which language or languages to assess and interpret the speech outcome for bilingual children or children with complex dialectal backgrounds. You get the language background information through the questionnaire, and after reviewing the manual and considering parents' concerns, you determine that the child should be assessed in both Mandarin and English. You decide to run the Mandarin assessment first, so you bring up the picture stimuli for the Apple Mandarin speech test. This is a set of cartoons that incorporate Chinese cultural elements. Each word and oral motor movement is paired with a corresponding picture. Before starting the assessment, you prepare the protocol to check and score the child's performance. The protocol is available in both digital and paper formats, and you choose your preferred option. The test also includes a game about apples, and you want to use it to help keep the child engaged during the assessment. Although you don't speak Mandarin, the recorded prompts allow you to present cues in standardized way following a certain hierarchy. With the assistance of an interpreter and parents, you successfully collect the child's speech data. After the test, you use the transcription support package to transcribe the child's speech. By consulting with parents or interpreters and referring to the menu, you gain a clearer understanding of the child's Mandarin speech abilities. So, how do children in SLP feel about this test? We conducted a field testing to figure out if the test design is culturally and developmentally appropriate for Mandarin monolingual speakers in China, as well as Mandarin-English bilingual speakers in North America and Australia. We also collected feedbacks from examiners regarding the clarity of the menu, the clarity and naturalness of the instruction scripts, and to understand how their language and education backgrounds may influence their test administrations. Until now, we've gathered feedback from trained professionals, including 1 special education teacher and 9 speech-language pathologists. 8 of them administered the test to children in the agreed-upon age group. After reviewing the materials of administering the test, they provide feedback orally or through a questionnaire. When asking about feedbacks, we ask the SLPs to comment on several aspects of the test, including the appropriateness of the pictures, test administrations, and scoring forms. SLPs also identify words that are challenging to elicit and pictures that are not easily recognizable for children in different age groups and cultural backgrounds. When rating how easy they found it to administer the test, the average was 4.5 out of 5. When rating how easy it is to use the scoring form, the average was 4 out of 5, which means that overall the SLPs and the teachers are satisfied with the test, and all of them are positive that they are going to use this test in their practice in the future. According to professionals' feedback, we revised the test. The revisions include reorganizing the scoring form to make it more comprehensive and easier to navigate. We've also provided additional information to support professional transcriptions and analysis. Besides asking SLPs and teachers for their feedback, we also try to run the test with some children. Speech data has been collected from 101 Mandarin monolingual children in China and 6 Mandarin-English bilingual children in North America and Australia. The children aged from 42 to 72 months. The boy-to-girl ratio is 50 to 55, with a relatively balanced number in each age group. 3 children were diagnosed with speech disorders before they were enrolled in the study, and the rest of the children were reported to be typically developing. You can see the number is a little bit unbalanced here. That's mainly because the field testing is still ongoing. In the next step, we're going to include more children to try out the test, especially those who are bilingual and or those who have speech disorders. So if you're interested in the test and know some children who may want or need to be assessed, you are more than welcome to contact us. Based on the data we've collected, it usually takes 15 to 25 minutes to run the whole test. Depending on children's age and how cooperative they are, the time may be shorter or longer. The game incorporated in the test worked out pretty well. Many children had even asked to play it again. This is a solid proof that we've achieved the goal here to make the test stress-free and enjoyable for the kids. Of course, we need more research to determine if this format fits well in different cultural contexts and you're more than welcome to join us in this process to figure it out. Coming back to other goals of our field testing, we identified the pictures that were hard to elicit, we revised those pictures, and after revisions, most of the pictures became more recognizable. Here are some examples of pictures that had been revised. The top row shows the pictures before the revisions, and the bottom row shows the pictures after the revision. During the field testing, we found that some words were not produced spontaneously by over 50% of children, and these words will be removed from the word list. Following the typical procedure of running a speech test, which involved administering the test, transcribing the children's productions, analyzing the speech data, and writing the report. We have designed a study to investigate factors that may influence this process and determine the types of supports that we can give to make it easier for clinicians to use the test for the purpose of referral or intervention. Our field testing is still ongoing, and we're expanding our outreach to gather feedback from more SLPs, especially those who are unfamiliar with Mandarin. If you're interested in trying out the test or just evaluating the test, feel free to contact us. Additionally, we'll continue to recruit children, especially Mandarin-English bilingual children and children with speech sound disorders, to assess cultural and the age appropriateness of the testing item. In the following stage, after we finish revising the test, we will recruit a larger group of children for validating and standardizing the test. After that, we will compare the performance of children in different groups to provide reference for clinicians and teachers to determine if a child has speech difficulties and requires intervention. We will also analyze their speech characteristics to establish norms after collecting sufficient samples. At the same time, we're conducting a transcription study involving SLP students and SLPs with varying levels of Mandarin proficiency. They will transcribe Mandarin words both with or without support. By that, we want to identify the most challenging sounds for SLPs to transcribe and assess the effectiveness of different types of support. As we can see, speech assessment involves several steps, which can be time-consuming when done manually. So, to streamline the process, we're also collaborating with a team at Memorial University on a semi-automated testing system called SpeechCatcher. The Mandarin speech test is expected to be integrated in this new iPad-based speech assessment platform. This system is envisioned to help examiner record, segment, and transcribe children's speech, support various analysis, and allow clinicians to generate reports with just a few clicks. We hope that this system will make the testing process more efficient and enjoyable for clinicians. To know more about SpeechCatcher, you can go to booth 218 at the exhibition hall. The official demonstration session will be held on Friday from 1 to 1:30 p.m. at booth 433. Here we come to the end of this short journey in the world of Apple Mandarin Speech Test. Thank you again for your interest. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. If you want to join our study or know someone who may be interested, that's super. Please feel free to contact me or our team through this email. Thank you and hope you enjoy the rest of the convention.